Now let's turn our attention to granularity, and in this video I want to help you to understand not just what granularity is, but the importance of getting this right and determining this. So let's start off with a simple definition. What is meant by the term granularity in a data warehouse environment? When you hear someone using that term, they are referring to the level of detail that's available. A better way of saying that is the lowest level of detail that's available from your data warehouse. Now, what determines the lowest level of detail in your numbers you can get out of your data warehouse? Well, obviously, it starts with the level of data that gets loaded into the fact table. Now, think about this. If we're loading per order numbers into the fact table, and they come back and say, wait a minute, we don't want to just see per order. We want to see per line item. We want to see everything that made up that order. And unfortunately, if I haven't been loading that data into the fact table or into the data warehouse, guess what? It's not going to come back to you. So we need to make sure that we understand that. If they're looking for daily numbers and we only have weekly numbers, if they're looking for weekly numbers and we only have monthly numbers. So first of all, the numbers or the lowest level or the highest detail of numbers that we load into the fact table is going to be the first and really the foremost aspect of what's going to determine how far down they can drill when they start to consume the data from the data warehouse. The next thing that's going to affect this is the number of dimensions that you have out there and the detail level. Now, if they come back and say, wait, I want to see a lot more information about the customers who place these orders, well, if we don't have a customer dimension out there, guess what? You're not going to get it. So now we've got to go back and dig through the original data, find out what kind of customer information we have that we can load into the dimensions, and then start to work from there. On our time dimensions, for example, we want to make sure that we can get quarter, year, maybe down to the hour, the quarter hour, whatever, the minute, the second, whatever we're trying to do and whatever has meaning with the data that you're actually putting into the data warehouse. Now, the big thing you need to take from this particular video is that granularity, or the level of granularity, or the level of detail that's going to be reported from this database needs to be determined during the database design phase. The obvious question comes up, can this be changed later? And I always tell my clients, in information technology, doesn't matter what you ask me, can you do this? Can it do this? Can we make it do this? Can you change it? The answer is always yes. But the follow-up question is, how many millions of lives, thousands of hours, and tons of equipment is it going to take to get us to that change that you're wanting? Okay, so it can always be done. It's just a matter of what's going to be involved in getting us there. Now, changes in a data warehouse can absolutely be challenging later on. A simple change like granularity can involve quite a few steps. Number one, we may have to change the structure of the fact table. We may have to add columns, take away columns, change some of our keys. We'll talk about those later. We may have to make changes in our dimension tables. Maybe our dimension tables don't have the proper attributes to let us pull the measurements the way we want to. We will most definitely, if we make changes to either of those, have to make changes in the way we're loading our data. That means going back, hacking into our ETL package, our extraction, transformation, and loading package, and make changes there in the logic that's loading that information. And then we'll probably have to make changes in the data queries that's providing the data out to the people who are consuming this data out of our data warehouse. So first of all, you need to understand what granularity is. It's the lowest level or the highest amount of detail that we can provide from this data warehouse. The second thing about granularity you need to know is this is a very key factor during the design phase to make sure that you build the data warehouse and that you load it with the appropriate level of data to be able to report that back later when we're actually using this thing to give us guidance and direction as we run the business. So that's some of the very basics about granularity. Keep this in mind as you're designing.